Community Police Commission. Welcome everyone to today's meeting. I want to first acknowledge that the Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges and recognizes that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, and Duwamish people past and present. With humility, we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. And the Seattle Community Police Commission honors and lifts up these tribes. And we hope that this acknowledgement will encourage authentic relationships with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. With that, at this point, I'm going to take attendance of commissioners just to confirm that we have quorum. We believe we do. Starting with Prachi Dave.
Prachi will not be able to join us this morning.
Prachi is not here today. Reverend Patricia Hunter, I see, is present.
Present.
Reverend Harriet Walden. Douglas Wagner.
Here.
Joseph Saya. Not present. Alina Santillan.
I don't believe Mylene is going to be able to join us.
I think I see her.
Yeah.
Do you see him?
Yeah,
The
I
square.
see him right there. Alina, are you present today? Well, I'm going to count Alina as present for now because I see Alina on the Zoom. Erica Newman.
She'll be on late in just a little bit.
Thank you, Suzette. So we are expecting Erica Newman soon. Tasha Johnson. Not present. Lajaya Washington. Not present. Suzette Dickerson.
Present.
Hi, Suzette. Thank you. Officer Mark Mullins.
Officer Mark Mullins is here.
Thank you, Officer Mullins. Joel Merkel, that's me. I'm here. And Commissioner Jeremy Wood.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first order of business today is there anyone who would like to put forward a motion to approve? Well, firstly, before I entertain a motion to approve today's draft agenda, there's one amendment to the agenda that I would entertain, and that would be at 9:20 to 9:40, we have a slot for a budget analysis follow-up with Andrew Meyerberg, and it's my understanding that Mr. Meyer. We all good? No problem. It's my understanding that Mr. Meyerberg will not be presenting a budget analysis follow-up. He's still working on that, and we can expect that at possibly the next commission meeting. So I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda after removing the budget analysis follow-up with Andrew Meyerberg. Is there a motion?
I
So
move
moved.
that the agenda be adopted with that adjustment.
And I heard someone on Zoom who made that motion on Zoom.
Yeah, I would just do that. I will go ahead and second.
Thank you, Suzette. Thank you, Suzette. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. So the agenda as amended is approved. And the next item is, as we sent out in the materials ahead of today's meeting, are the minutes from the October 5th meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we skipped the October 19 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the October 5th meeting?
I move that the minutes be approved from the October 5th meeting as distributed.
Thank you, Reverend Hunter. Is there a second? Thank you, Reverend Walden. All in favor of approving the minutes from the October 5 meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the minutes are approved.
Chair Merkel, can I go ahead and abstain from that one because since I was not present, I don't know what happened in that meeting, so I would like to abstain on that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Suzette. And I apologize for not asking if there were any abstentions. Are there any additional abstentions from approving the minutes? Okay, thank you, Suzette. That brings us to public comment section of our agenda. Public comment is welcomed by the Community Police Commission, and individual speakers will be provided up to 2 minutes to comment about items on today's meeting agenda. Director Grant, are you able to facilitate the public comment?
Yes, give me just a second.
Is there anyone present who wishes to make public comment?
I'm sure it is. Give me just a second. We had quite a few people that actually signed up, pre-signed up for public comment. At this time, we will ask for the people that are online to raise their hands if they have public comment, and we will unmute you, just allow you to talk. Do you see any raised hands?
Yep, we've got,
Okay,
we've got a bunch.
all right. Just go down the row.
All right, Dr. Howard Gale. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. Good morning. My comment today is in reference to the agenda items of public comment and the shot spotter. Shortly after the CPC started meeting nearly 10 years ago, public comment was banned, making the CPC embarrassingly unique among the many dozens of Seattle City Commissions, most ironic for a commission with community in its name. It was only last year, after significant public embarrassment, that the CPC decided to allow public comment, quickly adopting a public comment procedure that allows and encourages commissioners to attack, insult, and besmirch a public commenter like myself, who makes demonstrably true statements in an effort to hold this commission accountable. The public witnessed this behavior in the extreme during the CPC's last meeting, where I was attacked, insulted, and likened to a slave master simply for having the audacity to cite facts regarding the shot spotter and to note prior votes taken by the CPC. 5 months ago, the CPC listened to the results of a year-long strategic planning process provided by the company Connected Realities at a cost of tens of thousands of dollars. The top conclusion from this company's engagement with police accountability stakeholders and the community was, and I quote, "The CPC's engagement with the public is a subject of much criticism regarding who it engages and how. CPC's community engagement to date is lacking depth. CPC is viewed as uninvolved and disconnected from community, only engaging certain voices they agree with and transactional in their engagement," unquote. As the CPC meeting unquestionably and shockingly demonstrated last meeting, you've rejected the very advice you sought, egregiously wasting taxpayer money and once more rejecting the community. Over this last decade, the CPC has developed and become a captive to a culture very similar to the culture of policing itself, a force hostile and dismissive to the very community it is supposed to serve. We need a police oversight body that is answerable to the community, not a defense against the community and a facade to protect unabated police abuse.
Thank you, Dr. Gale. Logan, who do we have up next?
Amy Sandberg. Go ahead and unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Hi, my name is Amy Sundberg. I'm the co-chair of the Seattle Committee of People Power Washington, and I have come this morning to urge the CPC to not recommend the use of gun detection systems, including ShotSpotter, in Seattle. There are many reasons why People Power Washington finds these systems to be concerning. Perhaps chief among these is the finding in the recent Chicago OIG report that these systems can actually increase the bias of police officers when they are used. We know from the court monitor's consent decree report from earlier this year, there is still a troubling racial disparity in the use of force apparent from the SPD's own data. The monitor found that Black people, who make up 7.3% of the city's population, were involved in 36% of all uses of force by Seattle police officers, including 54% of police shootings. Meanwhile, this year's CPE report shows Black people are 5 times more likely to be stopped and questioned by SPD than white people. Given this data that the CPC has rightfully been concerned about, the idea of implementing a gunfire detection system that has been shown to make the problem worse seems ill-advised at best, especially in some of Seattle's most diverse neighborhoods. Other issues with gunfire detection systems include their low rate of accuracy, their documented use by police to frame innocent people, and their cost, which often balloons as time passes. So $1 million now can become $6, $7, or $8 million down the line. To spend this money on an unreliable technology when there are so many better ways to invest in our communities seems irresponsible. For example, there is an amendment for the budget right now asking for $600,000 to expand the gun violence prevention program at Harborview, beginning a new pilot that would focus on ages 25 through 40, since the current program stops at age 24. We also know that the more nonprofits that are operating within a city, the lower the violence rates become. Every 10 additional nonprofits per 100,000 residents leads to a 9% reduction in the murder rate and a 6% decline in the violent crime rate. So instead of spending money on a gunfire detection system that isn't meant to reduce gun violence, it would be better for us to invest in addressing basic needs and root causes of gun violence.
So thank you. Your time has expired.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, Gabriel Oates, you're up next.
A Seattle resident. I'm really concerned about the Shot Spotter program. I used to live in St. Louis in a predominantly Black neighborhood that had the Shot Spotter program implemented, and it didn't reduce gunfire at all in the neighborhood because it doesn't do anything to stop gunfire. It just records it when it happens. All that the program did was make people in the neighborhood feel like they were being constantly watched, and everyone feel like they're being treated like they were already criminals, because that is kind of how the Shot Spotter program functions. It can be overridden so that other noises are picked up, and nobody really knows when the cameras are on or off. I am worried about the mayor's proposal to put Shot Spotter in Seattle or any equivalent system because of my experience living in a neighborhood where this is implemented and watching my Black neighbors be criminalized for just going about their daily lives because there were video monitors everywhere. Thank you.
Alice L.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Alice Lockhart, and in my work volunteering with 350 Seattle, I usually end up at least scanning the Seattle budget, and every year there are a few things that would so clearly misuse taxpayer funds that I wonder if they were put there to distract from other budget thought. This year it's Shot Spotter. It's been shown, I'm sorry, to be ineffective, expensive, and to foster biased policing. And in my personal experience leads me to fear it. I'm a little white lady who used to think that the police were there to help me. But in my 30 years in Seattle, including several calls to police, they have helped me exactly 0 times. I live near North Precinct, and I follow police Twitter. I know that shots fired are immediately called in by citizens. No need for Shot Spotter. I've had multiple near escapes due to reckless driving by Seattle police. Shot Spotter false positives would increase that risk. I've been hassled by police multiple times, virtually always, while observing mistreatment of Black or brown people or riding in a car driven by a Black person who did nothing wrong. Shot Spotter has been shown to increase police bias and is intended by the Harrell administration for use in Rainier Valley, where we have the most Black and brown people. What the heck? While Seattle continues to grossly overfund SPD relative to other departments, Shot Spotter stands out among the crowd. Please don't support it in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
All right, Latanya.
Good morning. My name is Latanya Severe. I'm a non-binary person living in D2. I organize with Solidarity Budget and the Black Brilliance Research Project. I'm calling in to tell the CPC to please stop ShotSpotter being in the budget. Say no to ShotSpotter. It is a harmful, dangerous surveillance technology that has led to the murder of a 13-year-old child named Adam Toledo in Chicago, the wrongful conviction of folks in various cities, and increased violence by police in Black, Indigenous, and people of color neighborhoods. Supporters of ShotSpotter will tell you that it prevents gun violence. It does not. It can't. It simply tries to detect gunshots. Supporters will tell you that it will lead to the conviction of folks who discharge guns. It will not. It never has done this, and it won't in the future. It has been removed from several cities because it's expensive, causes more violence to BIPOC folk, and it doesn't yield the outcomes that ShotSpotter promotes. ShotSpotter has been tried in many cities across the country with disastrous results. ShotSpotter has an exceptionally high false positive rate and has been found to increase biased policing and false arrests. Through my work with the Black Brilliance Research Project, we asked hundreds of folks in Seattle, what makes you feel safe? And 0 people said they wanted more technology. 0 people said they wanted more surveillance. People asked for housing, mental health care, youth and family supports, culturally responsive crisis response and wellness, as well as economic development. Violence interruption programs can reduce community gun violence and assaults from 30 to 50%. 1 million is a lot of money. If we care about gun violence, we need to pour money into violence interruption programs and meeting people's basic needs in the South End, not to a program that has led to wrongful convictions and police murders. Thank you.
Thank you, Latanya. Becky?
Thank you. You can hear me? Yeah. I think that, well, thank you for hearing me. I do think that $1 million is just far too much money for Seattle taxpayers to pay on a program that is not even designed to reduce or prevent gun violence. At the best, it's designed to identify a possible crime area, and I can't believe that we would need to spend $1 million for that. This is not new technology, and the claims for increased public safety are easily disproven with research into other cities who have tried this ineffective technology. Those funds would better serve public safety if we were to spend it on proven gun violence prevention programs, such as the ones that were just listed by Latanya. If we truly care about gun violence, we need to invest in evidence-based proven violence intervention programs. It seems to me that this is more about providing a lucrative contract opportunity on the backs of taxpayers who are already stretched with the increased cost of living this year. Thank you.
Great, Matthew?
Hello, my name is Matthew Mendengo on the Seattle Human Rights Commission, and I recommend the use of ShotSpotter that on Third Street with all neighbor call about a month ago. There was out here is already saturated with these every some private security SPV that did nothing to prevent 2 shootings that happened here. Of you in the room to really ask yourselves if this technology is a shotgun, because district is a prime example that have surveilled did nothing to prevent this, and the money is technology out of corporate programs that actually keep us out of the ineffectiveness of ShotSpotter speakers hit it directly on the point, but General came out against this. The ACLU Amendment rights violations, search and seizure. It's no matter the folks in City Hall who are pushing this fog. They have ShotSpotter CEOs Not only is that corruption, but that's unethical. So you need to ask yourselves, who is this actually serving? Or if this is really to detect gunshot, the amount of info this will pick up on this egregious. So urge you all, please, and voice your opposition to this thing.
Thank you, Matthew. Great. Dina?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to give comment. I'm speaking on behalf of P4, a local group working to strengthen democracy and advocate for progressive values. P4 is committed to amplifying the voices of communities of color around issues involving the criminal legal system and policing. And it is clear that there are significant concerns across key stakeholders in those communities with regard to the effectiveness and impact of gunshot detection technologies like spot shooter. We therefore ask that the CPC withhold support for funding of this technology in the next city budget cycle until those communities most affected by the technology have had time to explore the data on its real-world application in other major US cities and come closer to consensus. P4 will also be providing comment at the upcoming City Council Budget Committee public hearing. Again, we'll request that gunshot detection technology not be funded until the city has undertaken a serious systematic analysis of the experience of cities that have paused or suspended the use of the technology. We believe this is the only responsible approach to resource allocation and to advancing our commitment to public safety. Thank you.
And Coco?
Hi there, my name is Coco and I'm calling about ShotSpotter technology. One of the other technologies that Seattle SPD already has on board is through something called the Early Intervention System through Accenture. And that technology service has already been shown to be an abject failure. It's supposed to flag cops when they are showing warning signs that they might be at risk of committing violence on civilians. That technology company has already had to pay out $63.675 million in a DOJ whistleblower lawsuit with due to false claims under numerous contracts with the United States, as well as with kickbacks and sweetheart deals. We're already seeing ShotSpotter is engaged in sweetheart deals, giving campaign funds to Bruce Harrell, and we just don't know. There's already been an investigation in Chicago. There's a lot of signs that this is not a company that we should be dealing with. Furthermore, as a former District 4 resident, my neighbor Charlena Lyles was murdered by police when they rushed to the scene to do their job. We know that policing is not safe in our community, and that police running in a frantic state with adrenaline rushed because they think that a technology that's been proven ineffective has gone off, and that maybe there's somebody who's possibly shot a gun, that is creating a recipe for disaster and for more police violence, as we've already seen in cities where people have been murdered because police have been shown to change their behavior when this technology is on board, making them more likely to murder and to act violently against civilians. And asking you to please consider looking further into this company and to not endorse ShotSpotter. Thank you.
Thank you.
And how many more folks do we have lined up?
2 more from the attendees and then 2 more from panelists.
Okay.
And then we also possibly have folks that are in the room too.
Okay.
Great. BJ?
Good morning. My name is BJ. I'm a Seattle resident. I'm also concerned about ShotSpotter. I was calling that. ShotSpotter doesn't work. This is why multiple cities across the country have worked to pull ShotSpotter from their city or pause it or are fighting on it. They're doing this because it doesn't work. It doesn't reduce gun violence, as opposed to gun violence prevention programs, which actually do succeed and do that. It doesn't provide evidentiary value to assist in investigations, and it results in communities being over-policed, with police responding to more false positives, rushing in a very, it was mentioned before, sort of a heightened, more aggressive state because they believe that there has just recently been a gunshot, and police using the existence of ShotSpotter as an excuse to do more terry stops on residents in those areas. This, in fact, like with the false positives, is one of the reasons that even police groups have actually supported pulling this technology in a lot of cities, because it has created so many false positives that has really stretched any resources they have even more. So, not only do communities oppose this in cities where it is, even police departments in a bunch of cities have really opposed this technology because it just does not work. And one other thing, just in terms of, I think, pointing out how much it does work, is ShotSpotter never gets put in a white community. If ShotSpotter actually did work to keep communities safer, we'd be, let's face it, Seattle, this would be getting put in Ballard if this was a technology that actually would make people safer. So thank you for this chance to speak, and yeah.
Thank you, BJ. And Matt?
Oh, hello, community police commissioners. Thanks for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm joining these other voices in strong opposition to implementing gunshot detection technology like ShotSpotter in our city. There's abundant evidence that these systems are unreliable. If this was some other kind of thing that we were considering buying, let's say we were shopping for a new microwave oven, we'd be extremely dubious of a salesperson's claims that their product was just the thing for reheating leftovers if, when we check the website reviews, they all give 1 or 0 stars and say things like, don't buy this, it's overpriced and dangerous. That's exactly the situation we're in with ShotSpotter, except the consequences of getting this wrong are much more serious than having to eat cold leftovers. ShotSpotter has been in use in many places for many years, and so we have a lot of good data on its effectiveness. The research shows that 90% of ShotSpotter alerts result in police finding no evidence of gunfire when they arrive on the scene. 90%. And because the Harrell administration is proposing to implement this technology in Rainier Beach, we know that all of this useless police dispatching will result in more false arrests, more unnecessary contacts between the police and our Black, Latinx, and other communities of color who are already over-policed and subject to disproportionate rates of violence by SPD. The only reason we're considering buying this crummy technology is because of years of aggressive lobbying and campaigning by ShotSpotter company, years of snake oil salesmanship. I'm begging you not to fall for it. If, like me, you desire a less violent Seattle, then reject ShotSpotter and put that money into community-led solutions such as violence interruption programs that have actually been proven effective. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I'd like to also call for public comment from people that are in the room. But before that, I would like for us to unmute Alicia.
All right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alicia Dasa. I am the mother of Connor Dasa Holland, who was murdered in front of our home on Rainier Beach, on 51st Avenue South on Mother's Day of 2020. While I understand all of the, sorry, this is really hard. While I understand all of the research and all of the background that people are giving today, what I know is 3 boys that have stayed the night at my house since they were young. Adriel Webb included, who was killed in the Central District. Connor, my son, who was killed in front of our house. Jamez Johnson, who was killed in the Central District. All of these cases are unsolved because there was no video. No one can find video anywhere. Adriel was killed on right across the street from the Garfield Community Center. at the AM PM. No video. Connor, my son, was killed 1 block from Rainier, from the Rainier Beach Safeway. No video. These homicides are going unsolved because there's no video, because there's no way to prove what's happening. Is there a way to implement spot shotter and use it maybe in an alternative way? Maybe we don't respond to the gunshots, because yes, we hear gunshots every night, practically every night during the summer and constantly during the year. Yes, residents do call them in. Yes, it shows up on the Ring camera. Yes, it shows up on the Nextdoor site and on Facebook and everywhere else. And yes, we all call and say, by the way, rapid gunfire, Rainier Beach, 9 o'clock. However, the follow-up for these cases is just not there. Do we have the opportunity to use ShotSpotter in a different way? Maybe we're not asking officers to respond to spot shotter immediately. Maybe officers are responding to reports from the community instead of the adrenaline rush that some technology just went off. But we need something in our community to change the fact that all these murder cases are sitting unsolved because there's no information, because there's no video, because there's no proof. Connor was a freshman at the University of Washington. He was the president at Rainier Beach High School, the class president, and a football captain. We have lived in this community for a really long time. All of our kids have grown up here. We have an 11-year-old that lives here now. We need things that are going to help us solve crime. If we can look at this and use it in a different way, yes, there are issues with policing and over policing. We all know that. That is not new news. We don't want to add to that issue. And there should be lots of violence prevention programs that are funded. That all those things are true. But what I also know is true is that I sit every night and wonder when we're going to get a call to say that our son's case was solved. And we probably won't. And if we have the opportunity to mix technology with prevention, how can we go wrong?
Thank you, Alicia. And I'm really sorry for you all that were curious about not setting a timer out of respect for Alicia as a mother to another mother. I felt like what she had to share, I was not going to put a timer on that. And so I thank you for sharing. I apologize to you for any vicarious trauma of having you share, but I think it's equally important that we make sure that we're hearing from all voices about this gunshot detection system. It's not necessarily us saying that we're taking any particular stance, but we want to make sure that any contribution to the purchasing of and implementation of this, everyone has had their voices heard around it. Their questions have been asked, any research that needs to be done, any clarity, we provide a space for that. Thank you.
I have one more.
Okay.
All right. Shannon, are you able to unmute?
Hello, I'm Shannon Chang, Chair of People Power Washington, a grassroots organization focused on equitable public safety. I am calling today to ask CPC to listen to the facts on gunfire detection systems such as ShotSpotter, understand that they do not address the root causes of gun violence, and help keep them out of communities already vulnerable to harm through bias and over policing. According to the mayor's proposed budget, the motivation behind an investment in gunfire detection system technology is to address the increase of gun violence in the city and address requests of those who have been directly impacted by gun violence for an equal level of service, regardless of a family's socioeconomic status, race, experiencing navigating systems, or the context surrounding a victim's death. Supporting victims and families impacted by gun violence and preventing more community members from being similarly harmed is a wonderful vision that we should all work towards. ShotSpotter is not part of that solution. At best, it is a waste of money. At worst, it funnels and exacerbates more harm into neighborhoods that already suffer the brunt of chronic underinvestment. Instead of throwing money at a faulty system that responds to rather than prevents gunfire, that is known to have a high false positive rate, that has caused increases in biased policing and false arrests, and that is being canceled in cities across the country, we could put that money into proven gun violence prevention programs and provide direct, meaningful aid to those impacted by gun violence. The continued consideration of ShotSpotter by the city of Seattle over the last decades means that someone stands to gain from its adoption. Unfortunately, it is not the community. Please protect community interests and assist in keeping ShotSpotter out of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment today before we move into the discussion?
I would just ask that if there is public comment, or are we ready to go into the actual discussion that's on the agenda next, which is for us to have a more thorough discussion and conversation with some of the folks that we've invited here today to talk about ShotSpotter in depth. If there is not necessarily a public comment per se, but you want to be a part of the actual conversation, I would recommend that we move into the next level of discussion. Okay. Louis, I want to make sure and double check if Jennifer Lee is here and Professor Shazaro. I know we have Ms. Victoria Beach in the room with us.
Shazaro and Professor
Yes, I'm
Shazaro
here.
is.
And I think Jennifer needs to be upgraded to panelist, but she's here as well.
Okay.
Good morning.
Jennifer Lee.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, okay, well, it does sound like we're moving into the agenda item 9:40 to 10:40, which is pretty much right on time for the discussion of ShotSpotter. And again, I'll turn it over to Executive Director Grant, sorry, to introduce the guests. And the purpose of this is to hear from folks who've been working on this issue and get more information and hopefully have some questions answered.
Absolutely. Just to reiterate what I had mentioned before, the commission, I wanted us to have an opportunity to open up the floor to be a conduit between community members and the commission for us to be able to talk about the relevance of this gunshot detection system, the disadvantages, perhaps, the benefits, if there are any, give the staff an opportunity to conduct any necessary research and best practices. It's not necessarily at this point for the commission to take a stance. We need to be more informed. We need to hear from community, but I wanted to make sure that that you all were given an opportunity to share information to the commission and the commission be able to respond and such. These will be ongoing conversations. This is not something that will be just one and done. And as I mentioned before, we have not taken any particular stance as a whole. Who we have joining us today are actually multiple people. There are several folks that have been promoted to panelists, but we worked with Commissioner Wood, and we have Jennifer Lee here from the ACLU. And then we have Professor Angelica Shazaro that will be joining us. And then we have Victoria Beach. And we have several other folks that are in the room that we want to be able to open the floor to. So if I have not mentioned your name, please do not take that in regard of any type of disregard. I'm happy to have you here and we'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and speak to this portion of the agenda. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Angelica and Jennifer.
Jennifer, do you want to go first?
Hi, yes, I would love to. Would I be able to share my screen for a presentation?
You should be able to. Let us know.
Okay, great. Just give me 1 second. You should be able to see my screen.
Yes, Jennifer, we can see it.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jennifer Lee, and I'm the Technology and Liberty.
She's
Shot
frozen.
detection technology. ShotSpotter.
Jennifer,
Sorry.
you froze a little bit on our end, and we're wondering if you can open up your presentation where you can just play it. There we go. There.
Sorry, am I still frozen?
No, you're not frozen, but it's still not in like presentation mode.
Okay, let me try this again.
The non-presenter view.
Let me. Sorry about that. Can you see my screen in the correct way now?
No.
Jennifer, if you're able to click from beginning on the left side of your screen, that might get it to the right screen.
No. 15 to 20 per, yeah, can we state that?
Yeah.
And Jennifer, I think you're frozen on our end again. Okay, I think we lost Jennifer. I'm happy to start us off, and then hopefully we can get Jennifer back on with a better connection, because I know we have limited time for this, if that's all right. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if this will work. All right, so I wanted to start off just because I know that not everyone can make this time for public comment. And so we held a town hall at Rainier Beach earlier this last week, just to get voices of folks who are thinking about what it would mean to bring ShotSpotter to that area. And here's a quote from Gregory Davis from Rainier Beach Action Coalition. And he says, ShotSpotter is a clear values mismatch. And by that, I mean, because it is reactive, our community is not interested in reactive solutions. We're interested in proactive solutions. We're interested in being able to demonstrate our respect for each other. So when I say values match, this is counter to everything we're involved in. I just have a couple more of these. This is from Karen Taylor. She says, ShotSpotter to me is giving them a license to hunt bodies. This is a waste of money and it's about control. Karen is a community organizer. Then we had a young person from Rainier Beach echoing some of the comments we heard today already, saying, I think that money can go towards more housing, also being put back into communities that need it, like Rainier Beach, Central District, also going to youth. Instead of going to jails, it needs to go into programs for us to go to do positive things. It needs to come back to the community, right? And all the research find backs this up, right? That the more nonprofits there are in a community, the more you actually see murder rates go down. So that this is actually a practical way to bring gun violence down, is to keep investing in community groups like RBAC and others. Then we have Mr. Davis wrapping up by saying, we want to do things in partnership, and this technology is opposite to that. I believe that the work we're doing in our neighborhood with our tech is better than ShotSpotter tech, and our tech is young people who are involved in the neighborhood, who are using their eyes and ears to make their neighborhoods a better place. So, again, echoing a lot of what we've already heard. One thing I did want to bring to this group, though, is a thing that we hear a lot is that ShotSpotter could help us lead to convictions. And I hear the call from people, especially people who've lost family members and beloved ones to gun violence, to think about, could this be something that helps us solve gun violence cases, right? And so I went ahead and reached out to the Chicago Public Defender's Office, because they've had ShotSpotter there for years now, to see, is this something that's being used in those cases successfully? And here's the information some information we got back. So what they're telling us is that ShotSpotter's systems, which are very expensive, do not result in evidence that's useful at trial, right? And so from their data, they're seeing that prosecutors succeeded in using ShotSpotter evidence at trial in 0 of the 25 cases that the Chicago Public Defenders have brought to trial, right? And so again, the idea that this is something that's going to help us with if your goal is a conviction, that's not how it's playing out on the ground, right? And again, I put in expensive systems because yes, the initial investment is 1 million, but also what we see in other cities is that ShotSpotter starts in one neighborhood and then expands to be used in other places in those cities, right? And so that 1 million is just sort of like the tip of the iceberg. It also doesn't account for the 1 million price tag for the amount of money that goes to police time to responding to every single ShotSpotter alert, right? Which again, isn't something that's leading to convictions if that is what your interest is. In terms of scientific transparency, what the Chicago Public Defenders are telling us is that ShotSpotter, the company, is seeking to avoid transparency in a way that's incompatible with due process rights of people in criminal cases. So if we care about having a solid criminal case, with having scientific transparency of how this is being used, how the data is used, ShotSpotter has filed motions to quash subpoenas in all 9 cases in which they have sought just very basic and important discovery on what this technology is and how it's used, right? So ShotSpotter doesn't want to give that transparency. We're also seeing prosecutors in Chicago using their discretion to avoid the very important question, I think, for all of us who are thinking about this in our city, of ShotSpotter reliability and admissibility. And it's not a stretch to think that this would be what would happen in Seattle, right? So in the 3 cases thus far in Chicago, where public defenders have filed admissibility challenges saying, you know, this should not necessarily be admissible, prosecutors don't even want to get to that question, right? They voluntarily dismissed 1 case. They agreed not to use ShotSpotter evidence in another case, and they offered to reduce the felony to a misdemeanor in the 3rd case, right? So the question even of like, is this data useful, is something that the prosecutors in Chicago are avoiding, possibly because they know that it would not stand up in court. And finally, when people in Chicago are being charged with felonies based on ShotSpotter evidence by the prosecutor's office, that is rarely resulting in securing felony convictions, right? So in 15 of the 19 cases which have been resolved so far, prosecutors have dismissed the charges altogether in 6 cases, offered to reduce the felony to a misdemeanor in 7 cases, or ended up losing at trial in 2 of the cases, right? And so I wanted to offer this again. I know that you all have been sort of flooded with information and data, but I think this particular data set was really important to thinking about, you know, what do we even think this will do for our communities? And at least what we're seeing in Chicago, the argument that this will result in felony convictions is just not, the case right now. I'm going to go ahead and pause there and see if we can get Jennifer back with us.
I'm Angelica. Thanks so much. I'll try screen sharing again, and if it doesn't work, I can just share this information without my PowerPoint.
And Ms. Lee, firstly, I want to thank Professor Cesaro. And before you begin, Ms. Lee, I just want to mention, I want to give everyone sufficient space to be able to present and participate. And I know we have Victoria Beach, and I think we also have some folks on the line from ShotSpotter today to answer some questions. So I just want to make sure we give you enough time. So if you could provide us your presentation, is 10 minutes enough?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And is Logan here? Okay, we just need to remove the public commenters from past panels. Go ahead, Ms. Lee, if you're ready.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Let me know if it crashes again.
Looks great.
Great. So as I was sharing earlier, ShotSpotter, the company ShotSpotter is a vendor of a widely used acoustic gunshot detection technology, as all of you know. And this company installs 20 to 25 microphones and sensors per square mile in the cities where this technology is installed, and uses these microphones to try to identify and locate the sound of gunshots. These sensors are often placed on lampposts or buildings, and the company's sensors automatically send audio files to human analysts when those sensors detect gunshot-like sounds. Those analysts then decide whether the sounds are gunshots or other loud noises like firecrackers, car backfires, or construction noises. They also triangulate the timing of when sounds reach different microphones to try to establish a location for the noise. If the sound is believed to be a gunshot sound, the company then makes an effort to figure out how many shots were fired and what kind of gun might be involved in the shooting. So at the UCLA of Washington, we have serious concerns about the use of this technology because ShotSpotter is inaccurate and ineffective both at preventing gun violence and investigating gun violence after the fact. We know that ShotSpotter has led to many wrongful convictions and police violence, and it poses significant surveillance and privacy risks. We're also really concerned that the mayor's $1 million allocation for a gunfire detection system in the proposed budget violates or circumvents the Seattle Surveillance Ordinance, which is a law designed to create transparency and accountability around these sorts of surveillance technologies. So on our first key concern, ShotSpotter is ineffective at preventing or investigating gun violence. Many cities have obtained or have sought to obtain ShotSpotter as a reaction to gun violence, but ShotSpotter is simply not designed to prevent gun violence and only attempts to address violence after it occurs. And it's ineffective at doing that. It's ineffective at investigating gun violence, as Professor Cesaro explained. Because ShotSpotter generates so many false alarms and is deployed almost exclusively in Black and brown neighborhoods, it causes more harm instead of mitigating it. While ShotSpotter has claimed that its technology is 90%, 97% accurate, that figure simply isn't the result of rigorous research. In fact, a ShotSpotter employee and expert witness testified in court that this accuracy guarantee was put together by ShotSpotter's sales and marketing department and not their engineers. We know that there are no independent peer-reviewed studies that validate ShotSpotter's accuracy claims, but there are prominent studies demonstrating that ShotSpotter is neither accurate nor effective. There is a 2021 peer-reviewed study of ShotSpotter used in 68 US counties that showed no reduction in firearm homicides, murder arrests, or weapons arrests. The authors of the study concluded that there's a lack of evidence to support a return on investment, whether monetary or otherwise, from implementing these sorts of technologies. Similarly, there is a 2020 peer-reviewed study of acoustic gunshot detection system that showed no reductions in serious crimes, despite a major increase in the number of police deployments responding to supposed gunshots. Many cities have learned from experience that ShotSpotter is not effective. An internal report from city officials in Atlanta, Georgia, concluded that the use of ShotSpotter lacks operational efficiency. A Dayton, Ohio report showed that ShotSpotter led to a less than 2% arrest rate. Research conducted in Hartford, Connecticut found that there's no discernible benefit to the outcomes on a shooting victim's health when police respond via a ShotSpotter alert compared to a community notification. And a recent Chicago study showed that over the span of 21 months, ShotSpotter deployed police over 40,000 times to neighborhoods for no reason at all. And because ShotSpotter has been shown to be so ineffective, in studies and through cities' experiences in acquiring this technology, many cities that have spent millions of dollars on this technology have actually ended up canceling their contracts. These cities include Buffalo, Charlotte, San Antonio, Fall River, Massachusetts, and Dayton, Ohio. Our second key concern is that ShotSpotter contributes to deadly police violence. ShotSpotter's many false alarms send even more police into Black, brown, and poor neighborhoods for no reason at all, further increasing the risk of harm. The Chicago Inspector General's analysis of Chicago police data found that the perceived aggregate frequency of ShotSpotter alerts in some neighborhoods leads officers to engage in more stops and pat-downs. The placement of sensors in some neighborhoods, but not others, means that the police will detect more incidents, whether they're real or false, in places where the sensors are located, and that can distort gunfire statistics and create a circular statistical justification for over-policing in communities of color. We're also concerned about the many examples of ShotSpotter evidence leading to wrongful convictions or being thrown out of court due to collusion between the company and law enforcement. In 2016, Rochester police colluded with ShotSpotter in the case against Sylvan Simmons after he was chased and shot 3 times by a police officer. And an appellate court threw out the ShotSpotter evidence in the case. A ShotSpotter expert admitted in the 2016 trial of Sylvan Simmons that the company reclassified sounds from a helicopter to a bullet at the request of a police department customer, saying that such changes occur all the time because, quote, "We trust our law enforcement customers to be really upfront and honest with us," end quote. This was not an isolated incident. In 2020, then 65-year-old Michael Williams was arrested and spent 11 months in jail, where he contracted COVID-19 twice after the Chicago Police Department asked ShotSpotter to change the location of an alert to charge him with murder. ShotSpotter's methodology is not transparent, hasn't been independently evaluated, and it's just simply unacceptable for data that's used in court. Our third key concern is that ShotSpotter poses some serious surveillance and privacy risks. ShotSpotter's microphones can record human voices, and people in public places, for example, people having a quiet conversation on an empty street, are often entitled to a reasonable expectation of privacy without overhead microphones unexpectedly recording their conversations. We know that in at least 2 criminal trials, prosecutors sought to introduce as evidence audio voices recorded on acoustic gunshot detection systems. In the Massachusetts case, Commonwealth v. Denison, the court ruling that, in the California case, People v. Johnson, the court admitted it into evidence, but in the Massachusetts case, Commonwealth v. Denison, the court did not, ruling that a recording of oral communication is prohibited interception under the Massachusetts Wiretap Act. But the mere presence of these microphones that are capable of recording people's private conversations is really concerning because it chills people's civil rights and civil liberties. Finally, we're concerned that the council, the mayor's proposed budget allocation circumvents the Seattle Surveillance Ordinance. The Seattle Surveillance Ordinance requires any City of Seattle department that intends to acquire surveillance technology to submit a surveillance impact report, conduct 1 or more community meetings, and solicit public comments, and obtain City Council ordinance approval before proceeding with the acquisition process. But the mayor's allocation in the budget for this type of technology indicates a clear intent to begin the acquisition process of a surveillance technology. And we are concerned that, this budgeting for ShotSpotter without authorization to purchase this technology prematurely commits and ties up precious resources that could be used for measures that we know keep our communities safe. So in summary, ShotSpotter is ineffective at preventing or investigating gun violence. We know that it causes harm to communities and disproportionate harm to Black, brown, and poor communities. We know that many cities have actually canceled their ShotSpotter contracts because this technology has proven to be ineffective and harmful. ShotSpotter is inappropriate to use in court. It poses serious surveillance and privacy concerns, and we're concerned that the mayor's allocation in the proposed budget for ShotSpotter violates or circumvents the Seattle Surveillance Ordinance, tying up money that could otherwise be used for proven violence prevention measures. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I understand we have Victoria Beach, Chair of the African American Community Advisory Council, is present today, and also has some.
Absolutely. And then I also too want to ask if Reverend Walden feels comfortable stepping away from the chair and speaking as mothers of police accountability. Victoria? Yeah.
Okay, hi.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm gonna be all over the map as some of the stuff I've heard is very upsetting to me, especially hearing from the mother who lost a child and kids that have grown up in her home. I'm for ShotSpotter. Some of the stuff I've heard is not true. It doesn't record your voice. And there may be a lot of cities that have canceled their subscription, but there are many more that have joined and are continuing the spot shotter. You know, if it saves one life, I'm for it. I have sat and talked with mothers and a few fathers that I don't like to use the word cry, weep over their child. And if it gives them comfort, I'm for it. You know, the other thing is they talk about, you know, the money. We've given out millions to so many agencies that are to prevent gun violence. Nothing has been done. Actually, it's gone up. Nobody has been accountable for that money. So you want to talk about wasted money? It's been wasted. Why not try it? It doesn't have to be a permanent thing. You know, the other thing, I mean, I heard a lot about it from the people that are involved with it. And rather than I explain, I rather they would explain. But there's false information being put out about it. And a lot of people know me as I'm pretty neutral. I'm not pro-police, 100% pro. I'm in the middle. You know, I'm gonna call either side out when they're wrong. And so this is something I'm willing to try out. What do we have to lose? The other thing is, I am so tired of being at meetings when non-African Americans think they know what's best for our community. We just heard it on a lot of the people that they're not African American. And one gentleman said, you know, it's not in Ballard and these other neighborhoods because it's not happening in your neighborhood. We're losing our Black men and women. And so don't speak for us. We want to take the lead. You follow our lead. You don't know what's right for us. You don't sit with the mothers like we do. I'm all for it. I probably have more to say, but I'm really upset right now that the false stuff is being put out about it. I ask everybody, do your research. Don't listen to the some of the stuff you heard and in the presentation. Do your own research. And I don't want to see another parent weep over their child. The other thing is, I hear gunfire all the time in my neighborhood. I don't even call anymore. It's like, why should I call? I'll call if it's more than one shot. A month and a half ago, there were 15 shots, and not even all the neighbors called. I'm tired of it. I don't want a bullet coming through my window. So if Spot Shotter can find out where it came from, how many shots, which guns, I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. And then you also, you have a meeting tonight. Can you explain to folks a little bit about what that is?
Yes, I have a African American Community Advisory Council I chair is partnering with mothers for police accountability tonight on the ShotSpotter. And we want to educate the community. And both sides, I mean, everybody is welcome to share their opinion in a civil matter, because I don't tolerate any people coming thinking that they're gonna bully and take over. But it's tonight at the Garfield Community Center, 6 to 8.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Walden?
Good morning, thank you. My name is Reverend Walden. I'm stepping away from the chair. As part of I can speak for the organization that I represent. Mothers had a meeting last Wednesday for community before the meeting that was down in Rainy Valley. We asked community to come up with the elements of a safe community. We have a right to come up with the elements for safe community. And also we are for the technology for the ShotSpotter also. Also, and what we talked about is a whole generation of people have grown up in violence. I didn't hear anybody talk about that. If you were born in 1990, you've known violence. I didn't grow up in a violent community. I might have grown up in segregation, but I wasn't afraid to go outside. We have a survey. We survey Black people, and most of the people are afraid to go out at night. Most people know somebody who has a gun. Most people know someone who's been assaulted. We started this in 1999 with the Silent War Campaign, breaking the silence on how we harm one another. A lot of people who speak for us don't live with us, and we've endured. And at this point, why can't we pilot a program here in Seattle? And then if it doesn't work, we can join the choir of everybody else who said it didn't work. But I mean, to actually want to speak for us and then to come and tell us what we don't need or don't want in Seattle, I think it's really horrendous. I've sat with mothers. I'm sitting next to a mother right now. Okay, yeah, right now, her, really, and we're not asking her to speak, but she brought her presence is here, okay? She's still suffering, okay? I also buried a child. So when you're in that club, can nobody who's not in that club talk to you, because your grief knows no bound, and over 40 mothers are crying. I mean, you get way over 1,000 mothers, and nobody talks about the mothers in Chicago. I mean, where's their voice? We hear all this stuff about Chicago. Where are the mothers who spared their children? What are they saying? In every city, the technology that they're talking about, all the complaints against it, they have not spent any time with the mothers. Have they actually went out and talked to the mothers and had a conversation with them and what they think about the technology? Black Brilliance, they got $3 million from the city, but with no deliverables. They didn't interview they didn't interview old people. So, so anyway, I've been doing this work for a whole generation. I've sat with many people, and the police did not kill 40 people in this city last year. Okay, we have to be willing to do both. We have to be willing to talk about police violence and community harm. It's time to widen, and as long as this happens this way, with us focusing on one thing, we'll never heal our community. Because really, the people don't want us to heal our community because they don't want to change the narrative. The narrative is that, look at these people. This is how they always behave. We want to change the narrative, and so we will stand up and be one of the groups who for the Shots Fired, and one of the groups who have sat with mothers and been with them. It's almost outrageous that nobody has any compassion for the mothers. But see, most people don't, we're not viewed as humans. So therefore it's no compassion for the Black community. Somebody always want to tell us what they want, how they want to fix us, but nobody want to have a heart for us and understand what it feels like for a mother who's buried a child. And it's a club that nobody wants to be in. Like I say, I'm in that club. And it doesn't matter how you get in the club. I have a lifetime of camaraderie with the mother who's lost a child.
Thank you, Reverend Walden. Appreciate you sharing what you shared. Again, that's the purpose for the day, to be able to have conversations with folks that are the most directly impacted and that live in these neighborhoods that are being discussed. I share that with you, and I want to again thank the mothers that have attended today. And I appreciate your presence and being here. I'm so grateful for it. I also want to open the floor to commissioners to be able to respond, be able to give any input or feedback. I also want to mention again, the ShotSpotter is actually on the call. There are two representatives that are here that are open to answering any questions or can also respond and such. But I really want to open the floor to commissioners as well to be able to speak and respond, okay? Suzette, I'm looking down there at your lovely face and just thought I'd pass the baton to you since you're here in person with us.
I'm going to mute myself so people can hear me.
Keep that on.
Okay.
It'll come through.
As a person who really doesn't know much about spot blotters, I'm taking, people have been watching me take a lot of notes. And so I'm interested in not just going by what is being said, but actually doing some research myself and finding out. But I really, truly want to hear from the communities that this really impacts, because that is what we are charged to do. So I thank those who are here, and I hear loud and clear that, the mothers have not been, their voices have not been lifted up. So I'm glad. Thank you for coming here and having your presence here. And I am proud to lift your voice up in this. So I know I'm charged with doing a lot of work and a lot of research so that I can make an intelligent decision in regards to the way that I would vote in regards to this. So, that is what I will do.
And if there's anything that staff can contribute in aiding in that research for you all, being able to gather information, we also will be out in community attending meetings and events and things of such, and hopefully being able to, whether we're hosting it or not, being in attendance so we can hear. So if there's anything that we need to do on behalf, or you want to run through, or just any type of support, we're here, we're tasked to do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Grant, would it make sense to hear from some of the folks on the line from ShotSpotter to discuss some of the things that have been brought up today?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
I'd love to hear from them.
Who do we have on the line from ShotSpotter that is prepared to address some of the issues that have been raised today?
Logan is letting in Dr. Gerald Tate. That's right now. He was.
Dr. Gerald Tate?
I apologize. I was on the call. I think.
Good morning, Dr. Tate. If you could introduce yourself and then just let us know what you have to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Can everybody hear me?
Not
able
well.
to hear you.
And more volume.
1 second, please. I'm trying to fix that. What about now?
Yep, we're good.
All right, so I'm Dr. Gerard Tate. I'm the Director of Community Impact and Engagement. And I'm not sure the people who was doing that research before, if they ran across me in the 18 months that I've been here at the company. But if you had, I think you would probably know what I'm about to talk about. It's very contrary to some of the things that you've said. I'm super happy to be here. My city was brought up a lot. I'm from the south side of Chicago in the Englewood neighborhood, which is one of the most violent. That is where all my family lives. That is where I was born and raised. It is a ShotSpotter coverage area. I knew that before I came to the company. Before I came to the company, I was a strategy and innovation officer for violence prevention in DC, where I worked specifically with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement with community violence intervention workers. That is training and helping violence interrupters, hospital-based violence intervention programs. My history is as a school social worker in northern St. Louis County, where I went to graduate school. And before that, I was a military police officer. So I give you that background and my social work lens to help you understand kind of what I'm gonna briefly talk about now, because I know that the time is short. Since day one of me coming to the company, we have been using, and I have been pushing, the use of ShotSpotter data beyond law enforcement. That is my very recent history with violence interrupters. In fact, just last weekend, I was at the Cities United conference in Baltimore, which is the convening of all the community violence intervention workers, speaking about why it's vitally important for them to use ShotSpotter data to respond to communities in a proactive way. In addition to that, the African American Mayors Association, I begged and pleaded with African American mayors to use ShotSpotter data for proactive approaches. So we are doing that. The OIG report, and we have responses on the website. My colleagues will make sure you get it. Even the director of that said it is not an indication of accuracy of ShotSpotter, but very much about the operational use. And again, I will be very clear, as if you watch it in my videos, if you're only using ShotSpotter data for police response and you have high crime going on and you're not sending second responders, you're not sending social workers, violence interrupters, it's going to be very, very hard for you to sustain violent crime reduction, right? Sounds of gunfire are traumatic to young people. And the one thing that's been very clear to me in the 18 months as I've been here is people who live in neighborhoods like where I'm from get used to, like it was mentioned earlier, gun violence is normalized and we're not calling. And then we have children traumatized by that gunfire who are going to school the next day, right? And they may be hypervigilant. And then what happens? It increased the likelihood of the school to prison pipeline happening if they acted in antisocial ways. So probably the month 3 I got here, we started working with schools and police departments, and particularly school police departments, to say, hey, You need to quickly identify those children who are underneath that alert when they go to schools. Violence interrupters, and I know, are not receiving police data and crime data to make data-informed deployment decisions. So many of you who have researched those programs and bring them up, which I greatly support and do technical assistance with now, they need much more data and information as well to be effective. And so that review is also mixed too, though I fight for them as well in a holistic approach. If you have a hospital-based violence intervention program, if this is brought there, I personally will be on the ground working with those social workers and working with those school counselors to figure out how do we share data most effectively. Since I have short time, I will say on the accuracy, if you do want to research it in a balanced way, go look at all of the lives that are being saved by responding to ShotSpotter alerts, who are getting to the dot and finding bodies on the ground. And so I see people shaking their head. And again, people research, right? Like I do research what's being found. When I am home, my respond alert is on my phone. Why? Not because I don't believe in it, because I want to be very situationally aware. When police officers, again, when police officers respond to gunfire, when you call and you don't know exactly where it's coming from, they have to go into neighborhoods looking and searching everywhere. So when you talk about over-policing, making a bunch of different stops, not having precise location of where gunfire is coming from, it gives them less intelligence and information about where they should go, which means they have to look around every corner in every street and take a lot more time to find those victims. So again, I know my time is short and some of my colleagues wanted me to go down a different path, but like some of you here, some of the things that I was hearing specifically and using one use case in my city, where the operational tempo of the police department is so high that even when you respond to a ShotSpotter alert and you down 7 or 8 calls, if there are not victims accurately right there, that where you could see them, they have to move on to the next call. That's not an indication that a gun was not fired in that location. In fact, again, I push for second responders to follow up and victim services, because I'm sure you will go there and find children and families who've been victimized by the sound of that gunfire. I'm open to any questions and sorry for talking fast.
Thank you, Dr. Tate.
I have a question quickly. This is Alicia Dasa. I'm wondering, just from, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering if ShotSpotter as a company would be willing to do something with the city of Seattle to look at outcomes when things are in a perfect state. And I know when I say perfect state, that's not always realistic. But what I mean is with violence intervention, social workers, hospital programs, all of those things put together, with the use of ShotSpotter not being our go-to response, but being able to do that follow-up, being able to do those victim services types of things. Is that something that ShotSpotter would be open to? And maybe that reduces cost. Maybe that helps ShotSpotter with their public image. If we can go back and say, these are all the things that we've implemented in our city. These are the different interventions we've tried. We've put all these things together and these are the outcomes. And be transparent and legitimate, not only with what's happening in the city around violence, but also, around police accountability, all of the things that are happening. Is there a way that we can actually do this, work together, and be transparent enough to make people feel comfortable on all sides?
So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly. Are you saying to work together with you to put a holistic strategy beyond police to work with victim services, violence intervention, and those other entities that you named?
And all of those things, because that's where you're saying some of these other cities have fallen, that these other cities have fallen flat. But with that, what I would say is that if Seattle is willing to take something like this on with a holistic approach, with the both and approach, if we did that, including ShotSpotter, but with maybe an abbreviated response to ShotSpotter, maybe calls aren't sent out with every single notification. maybe there's that holistic approach piece of it, because I know my daughter was here when my son was killed 20, maybe 50 feet from her. Yes, there's major PTSD around gunshots, but is there a way for us to approach this holistically? And is there a way for ShotSpotter to come back and say, if Seattle's willing to work on this, then we need to review our contract prices and all of the things that come along with this technology, not only to move ShotSpotter forward, but to move the city forward?
So first, let me answer that by saying I don't work in sales on purpose because I am a licensed social worker, and there is some issues with things that I don't want to even look to be gray areas around me doing sales in these type of communities who need my help from a social, economic, and health impact. So sales questions I don't typically answer. I will say that this is a major initiative that I've been pushing, that we've been launching, and we'll be more than open to discussions and how we can make that holistic approach work before we come in, right? Not what I've had to do when I came on board, which is working through our police department and who are pretty much open and trying to get everybody else on board. So I'm fully in support as a company spokesman in getting that collaborative group together before any of these things happen and sit and us all talking about it. Yes. The second part I will say, and this is as a former law enforcement officer, when gunfire occurs, when the response gets to police within 60 seconds, sometimes those people are still in and around the area. So as a social worker now, that's not a law enforcement officer, I don't want to quickly respond to a scene of an active shooter and possibly become a victim with no way to defend myself or getting into civilian to civilian shootouts, right? So my doctorate focused on developing training for co-responder models for mental health, for social, economic resources and services. So maybe a co-responder model, if that's something that you have talked about in your committees or research, and I can send information about that. But when gunfire occurs, law enforcement personnel need to respond, even for EMS and EMT to be safe enough to go in to apply their advanced medical knowledge, which is why we've been seeing so many police officers using our technology, applying tourniquets prior to paramedics getting there. And so I would not just personally advise sending in non-police officers to active shooter scenes that quickly after an incident happened. I'll also say, again, and when you research, I'm sure some of you are gonna look up, I consistently say that children and families are being traumatized by the sound of gunfire, even if police can't get there. In some of the cities where it's not as a top priority as our best practice are, somebody needs to go there the next day. Somebody needs to check in with those families. Before I came here, I worked in cities where I responded to houses the next day, windows shot out, doors kicked in. Nobody is checking on those families. And then those norms start to develop in children's brains. As nobody's coming to help me, nobody's coming to save me, I probably need to carry a gun myself. How do I know? Because that's some of my own family members now, right? I talked to my cousin about coming to visit me. He says, hold on, they're shooting outside. I didn't blink and he didn't blink. That is a problem, right? And that's happening in so many other communities in the cities that I go to each day. So we just had an event in Springfield, Illinois last weekend using ShotSpotter data to deploy. And you can look it up, a mayor's program to bring public works, the health department, social and economic development services. I'm in Mobile, Alabama for another thing that we're doing this weekend, bringing all of those services directly to where the impacts of gunfire is having the most adverse effects to address the root causes of crime and violence. And I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, but hopefully I could come back and speak much more about this in person.
Well, and I do have one other question, because the funny thing is nobody here is, no one here has brought it up.
Alicia, can we, if we could have you submit the question, we're gonna actually have some more conversations with them. We wanna allow more room for other folks to be able to ask some additional questions, okay?
Commissioner Mullins had his hand up.
Commissioner, yeah, thank you. Do you want to take over?
No.
Okay, we have about another 10-ish minutes left of this portion of the agenda. I want to make sure if there's anyone else from ShotSpotter who has information they want to share, but also I want to make sure we have enough space for commissioners to ask questions or share comments or thoughts with the time remaining.
There's one other person from ShotSpotter. He is Ron, and he is on the call, so it's the phone number.
I also see Terry Green from ShotSpotter also seems to just came off camera or came on camera.
Yes, hi, I am Terry Green. I am the director for the Western Region. I do have Ron Teachman on the line. He's calling in, so he's not on video. He's at the airport. I think he's trying to get on so he can speak and say a few words. I would like to thank you all for the time and then follow up on a lot of things that were addressed early on. I will send that to the CPC so you can distribute the responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
And is Ron on the phone? And does Ron wish to address the commission?
He does. Ron?
Thank you. And thank you for unmuting me and allowing me a couple of minutes to speak on some of the issues that I've heard. Forgive me, I was in transit from my hotel to an airport to fly today, so I'm pressed for ability to hear you clearly over the last hour or so. A couple of points that may have been made, but I just want to stress. And by the way, by way of background, 38-year law enforcement, 8 years as a police chief. I installed ShotSpotter in both cities where I served as chief, New Bedford, Massachusetts, South Bend, Indiana. They're both still customers. I've heard some discussion today about cherry picking a couple of cities that have not renewed over the time. We have an exceptionally high renewal rate, 99% over the last 3 years. Some of the cities that were mentioned are re-engaging with us. Many cities, because of financial interests or political decisions, didn't renew but have been recaptured. That's why we're well over 135 cities today, an extremely high loyalty rate, especially in the technology space. But I just want to address some of the concerns that were raised about prevention and the effectiveness of ShotSpotter. Most of the focus is about the fact that we alert after a gunshot happens. But the reality is most of those gunshots precede bodily harm. They're test firing at the time of purchase. They're shooting at stationary objects because they cannot go to a range because they're not legally possessing that firearm. These are all opportunities for police to take those guns, hold those shooters accountable. It's a very small percentage of the population in Seattle or any city that are the serial trigger pullers. And that's the focus. You reduce the gun violence first by identifying those parties and holding them responsible, but also by engaging the community. Community engagement is a key to any crime reduction strategy. There are never enough police officers, and certainly we don't expect to arrest our way out of the problem. How do you engage a community that has given up on the police because they have not seen police respond comprehensively? And this, I think, is this is the reason why I joined the company. It's why I brought ShotSpotter to the two cities, is to fill the delta, that gap between the expectation of a police response and the reality that the police don't know about the gunfire. Over 80% of gunfire never gets called in. People aren't sure it's gunfire. That's a recognition problem. They think someone else is calling, a redundancy issue. They're afraid that the shooter will see the police respond to their house as a retaliation concern, or they've given up, they've normalized it. This is a resignation to the problem issue. So for all those reasons and others, people are not calling the police. And when they do call, by the way, there's a serious time lag of contemplation of call, going through the 911 system, through a call taken to a dispatcher. And these precious seconds or minutes can mean life and death to a bleeding victim. We're able to notify the police in under 60 seconds. We contractually guarantee that to a precise location that gets into the scene to render immediate first aid to victims. And that's how lives are saved when a shot has happened. But it also gives them a chance to collect evidence, whether it's witness evidence, forensic evidence, identify the people accountable for these shootings that are traumatizing neighbors and doing the vicarious trauma that Dr. Tate speaks to. It gives an opportunity for that intervention, which you're not getting through 911. You know, we have automatic notification systems with our fire department that notify the fire department when fire happens to save lives. This is very similar, notifying the police to get to the scene promptly, effectively, and comprehensively to save lives, as well as to help solve these cases, as well as to engage the community. And that's why we reference our 135 customers to see that they're engaged. All but one renewed last year, 99% renewal over the last 3 years. The one that didn't renew, we In fact, I'm in that city right now talking about re-engagement, working through an ordinance that required all vendors to take a step back. And that's the only reason why they didn't renew. We're seeing many of our cities, about a third, expanding their footprint over the last year. Many have gone to a multi-year agreement, extremely high loyalty. They know it works. The people who use it, not critics from the outside, but the people who use it know that it works. And that's why we have such a strong customer base. And I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Thank you, Ron. We actually have a question or comment from one of our commissioners. Eilina, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate everybody who's who shared. And one of my questions is, I've seen a lot of data and read a lot of data about ShotSpotter not being effective and the negative impact it has had on communities. So I'm curious if you were seeing positive impacts of, hey, this notified us of a shot fired, we were able to get there, render aid and save a life. If you could share the statistics and the data of how this has been effective.
I'll just give you one anecdote, and Terry can supplement electronically because I'm not in a position to do that. Oakland, for example, has been tracking how often are we dispatching police through ShotSpotter versus 911 when someone has been shot. And in 1 year, over 100 shooting victims who rendered immediate first aid and response through ShotSpotter where there was no corresponding 911 call. Over 2 years in that same city was about 177 victims. Now, how many of those were life-saving? I don't know. We don't have that data. But all of them were given first responder care, transported. Maybe even if they would have lived, their injuries would have been exacerbated by the blood loss. Time is tissue. Getting to victims promptly is extremely important to save their lives and to limit the amount of blood loss and damage. ShotSpotter enables the police and EMS to respond promptly and effectively and comprehensively.
And Terry, maybe in your response to, and thank you, I appreciate that, or Gerard, maybe, or Dr. Tate, I'm sorry, maybe in your, I know you worked hard for that PhD, maybe in your response, you can share like comparing that data. So what I heard is that, yes, this was effective in these ways, but how does that compare to the ways that it is harmful to, in particular, Black communities, like Professor Tazaro and others have shared? Are you able to share that comparative data?
Absolutely. I have a lot of information I've already had compiled, and I want to go through this again, view the video to make sure I got all the questions so that we can address all the concerns. Thank you. And I will follow up so that it can be disseminated. Thank you. And for the record, I've never sold snake oil. I just wanted to put that on record. Sorry.
And I don't want to, and Terry, I'm not sure if that was my comment, but I know you have. I wouldn't be here. I like to keep my license to practice. I will say this though, and we keep bringing this up, and this may be a broader conversation, but the social work professor in me has to bring it up. I think a lot of the things that we're talking about, particularly in African-American communities and harms, are historical harms from policing to do with racism, racial segregation, redlining, and all of those other social and economic, negative and adverse health impacts that are not just only on police, and involve some elected officials and other systems as well. And so when we talk about gun violence prevention, I just want to make sure, and it looks like you have a comprehensive team here, but all of those people should be at the table and talking about, as I think Alicia brought up before, as a norm, right? And specifically starting with those people in the community. Because what I see when I go to a lot of community at the street level, it's not the same people that I see that also that are often on the calls. When I go in the middle of the night and I go visit the hospitals, and I'm gonna go to Mobile and I'm gonna go knock on doors and sit in living rooms with people who look like my grandmother, I'm not seeing the same people who are on the call. So I ask when I come to take me directly to that neighborhood, right? I can do the academic and the corporate talk, right? But I need to go to the neighborhood to explain to people exactly and help them make an informed decision, right? And if they decide after what we say and after getting the real knowledge and information that they think it's more harmful, then they made an educated decision, right? But I wouldn't be here. I got plenty of other opportunities. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that this saving lives and helping to address trauma And that's why I'm still here. And in some cities, I'm going literally begging for the schools and other health agencies, specifically public health. And I've already started research looking at the King County. They need to be absolutely a part of it as well as their gun violence prevention thing. So I just ask, when I do come into town, if we come, that all of those stakeholders come to the table, but starting with those community members who actually live in communities where I'm from.
A quick point, I don't think we need to have this either or proposition. I think it's a false proposition to say you have ShotSpotter or you have other programs. ShotSpotter integrates very effectively, as Dr. Tate pointed out, by directing violence interrupters and street outreach programs. I have worked with those programs both in New Bedford and South Bend, use ShotSpotter data to properly deploy them more effectively, not just anecdotally. Group violence intervention, other strategies that have proven effective, evidence-based gun violence reduction programs interface directly with ShotSpotter. The data drives their deployment more effectively.
Yep, thanks, Ryan. I can give you an example of some ways we created custom dashboards for schools and violence interrupters in some cities we work in right now. This isn't just a talking point. Again, probably the last year, we've been directly working and doing that. And thanks to Ron for really making sure the door was wide open when I came here to be able to work with those groups. And again, that data is being shared to those groups free of charge, right? So it's not a business thing. We say we give you the data to do great community work, and we're charging you for it. We have an initiative called Data for Good that's launching in a couple of weeks that is comprehensive of all of these things that we're talking about that I've been working to put together with the great team and our community partners. But many of them are already happening now. Again, you can look at Operation Echo Stop in Mobile, Alabama, what we do with Wayne Rollins, and Walk in One Stop down in Miami-Dade County. The work we directly do with Savannah Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement and others. That's been going on for a while. And so some of the talk about not using the data and technology to be proactive and only reactive is not accurate.
Okay, it's 10:43, and we've spent about an hour on that discussion as was outlined in the agenda. And I just want to thank all of the speakers and presenters, everyone from public comment to folks who participated in the discussion. Thank you. This is something, as Commissioner Dickerson mentioned, that we're all very interested in learning more about and doing our homework. And so we look forward to additional resources and responses to questions that can be sent to the commission that we can all consume and consider. So thank you for that. I think it's easy to say that this is not going to be the last time we discuss this. I also just want to mention, we passed up the budget analysis follow-up with Andrew Meyerberg earlier because, the answers to those questions weren't quite ready. And at the last commission meeting, we also said that was not going to be the last time we discussed those budget items. And likewise with ShotSpotter, I'm confident this is not the last time we discuss that as well. So we will continue this conversation moving forward in future committee or commission meetings. And we look forward to continued community and commissioner participation. I do want to move into the Community Police Commission updates. I'll go ahead and start with a co-chair update. Really what I want to touch on is something that we've touched on, again, not to sound like a broken record, is commissioner engagement and commissioner appointment. The co-chairs and the executive director Grant have been working with the respective appointing authorities, the city council, the mayor's office, and we have a number of commissioner vacancies currently, and we also have some commissioner terms that are expiring at the end of the year. Thank you to those who responded and indicated a commitment to the commission, to recommit to the commission and desire to be reappointed. Those are being sent to the city council for reappointment. I also understand there are some, the city council is moving forward on soliciting commissioner appointments as well as the mayor's office. So I think we can expect some movement on that by hopefully by the end of the year and have some additional vacancies and positions filled as we go into the new year. And with that, and with along with all of the new hiring that our executive director has overseen on the staff level, we are going to re-energize those work groups. And so we will be going around and asking commissioners to pick a work group that they prefer to serve on. And we want to get those back up and running. Would it make sense to do that at the next meeting or?
We can do it at the next meeting,
Okay.
but Kali is also, during my updates, is gonna do a call out as well.
Got it. Okay. So look for that. This is your notice to think about that and come prepared certainly by the next CPC meeting to let us know which work group you want to participate in, and we can get those things back up and running at full steam. And with that, I'll go ahead and defer to the executive director for her update.
Thank you, Joe. I have quite a few updates this morning. I want to thank everybody again for attending the meeting, those in person and those virtually. One of the things is I want to, for the public record, there is a public comment clarification that I would like to provide at this time. At our last meeting, we had a community member state that the Community Police Commission had voted to defund the police during a June 2020 meeting. We have checked the record and the date was June 19th, 2020. And here's what actually happened. The CPC voted to make a value statement as submitted by Commissioner Joseph Saya, which said, we, the CPC, support divestment, reinvestment in the community, and dropping charges against protesters on behalf of the communities we represent and speak for. The motion was adopted with 12 yes votes, 3 no, and 1 abstention. I know since many of the commissioners who participated in that vote are no longer serving, would any of the current co-chairs want to comment on this? But I wanted it to be made for the public record to respond to that comment that was made in our last official meeting.
I'd just like to thank you because once something is said, these are public readings, and once something is said on a comment, and then if we don't, if we, the commission, does not offer the clarification on that, it goes down in history as the truth. And I think it's our responsibility to be able to verify our what happened at the CPC meeting, so it would be noted that we made the clarification. Otherwise, it goes down. The statement will go down as the truth when it's something else that might not be.
Thank you, Reverend Walden. I have a staff introduction, so I wanted to take a few moments and allow our new policy director, Dr. Kali Ellis, who has joined us as a part of the CPC staff. I'm going to give her a moment to introduce herself to everyone. We're so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Brandy, and I'm really happy to be here too. So yes, my name is Kali Ellis. This is the end of my first week as the policy director for the CPC, and I'm really excited to be here. So for the past 5 years, I was a professor at Evergreen in the Master's of Public Administration program, and that was great, but I was living here the whole time in Seattle. This is my home. And so I left that and came here because I really want to participate, bring my skills, bring my excitement to this really important historic time. This is a huge honor to be the policy director for the Community Police Commission, to meet all of you, and you'll be hearing from me more. So for those of you that are commissioners or commissioners to be, one of the things that I told them when I was here is I really want to reach out and have interviews with everybody, get to know everyone personally, your background, why you're here, what you want out of this experience, and that will really help me as I go into the work group part, which is another very important piece. And thank you so much, Chair, for recognizing that. So as we stand up these work groups around the critical issues that we're facing, you'll be hearing from me very soon about how we will get those done and use those in the most effective way. So again, I'm really excited to be here. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I'm happy to be part of this. Thanks, Brandy.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Congratulations.
As you all saw in your supplemental materials that were sent around, there was a couple of budget action proposals from Councilmember Herbold, one of which was regarding the Regional Peacekeepers Program and expanding it to the age of 25 to 40. And then another budget proposal was the 911 dispatch alternatives. As you all know, the way that we are structured, when we provide a letter of support, there has to be a vote. And so the staff and I did a deep dive into the materials that were provided to us by the member's office, and saw where there were actually a lot of points of clarity that needed to be addressed before we could bring it to the full commission, have a discussion with you all, and you all propose, put forth the motion to vote and approve the letter. So what you all saw in your supplemental materials was actually a letter that came directly from me and the staff, basically asking for points of clarity around some of the things that we saw that are being proposed to expand the regional peacekeepers program, and also the 911 dispatch alternatives. At this time, we're waiting on a response. We have been notified that everyone has received the letter. And once we get those responses, then we will bring it back to the full commission, have an open dialogue about it, and then you all can determine how you would like to move forward. Okay. Other updates that I wanted to provide to you all is I sit on one of the work group committees for House Bill 1477 as one of the subcommittee members. And I wanted you all to know that we're in the process of helping do the initiating and the rulemaking process for the 988 crisis call center hubs. There are several listening sessions for the 988 crisis call center hub rules that will be coming up for the month of November. There's a listening session November 10th from 6 to 8 p.m. They will be asking of ways how to improve, have folks experience difficulty of harm. They will be talking about confidentiality and safety concerns. And then there's also another one that will be hosted November 16th and December 13th and December 15th. I will be sending this information around so you can have a little bit a more in-depth kind of understanding of what they are, but it is a combination of listening sessions and workshops. We as the commission have also had several conversations about the call centers and the process in which that is. I feel like it would be equally important if commissioners and community members have access to these listening sessions are able to participate. As the ED, I will be participating in them, but I wanted to share this opportunity to commissioners and community members to also be able to provide input about these call center hubs. So I will make sure that everybody that is in attendance today and figure out a way to post it and make it live so you have access to be a part of those listening sessions and workshops. I hope you do partake in those. Other than that, the only other update that I have was I wanted you all to have an opportunity to hear from some of the newer staff members who had an opportunity to travel to the NACO conference, which is the National Association for Civilian Oversight for Law Enforcement. And then we were able to participate in IACP. And so we were able to collect and gather a lot of information, a lot of materials, and some of these things will be what will help inform some of your work groups and some of the topics that we'll be doing when they go back online. Logan was just going to give like a high level takeaway. These are, with the exception of ICP, first time, but NAPOL, I am an oversight practitioner. So I've been to that several times. I wanted you to hear the takeaways from someone that is new to this work. And some of the things that they heard and some of the things that we'll be bringing back up to the commission. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
So before Director Grant, before
Mhm.
your staff start making comments, I'm very conscious about the time
Mhm.
and that the agenda says that we will be ending and we have all the department updates to go through. So I'm wondering if we need a motion to extend the meeting for 10 minutes? Or do we do the department updates at the next meeting? We have 5 minutes.
I'm fine with extending it. I personally can't stay because I have another meeting at 11.
There aren't very many people, Commissioner Dickerson, that are here to give departmental updates. So we very well could end, so no one is missing anything.
So you think we'll be finished by 11?
We could do department updates at another time, probably, if we needed to push them forward. There are a lot of people that aren't here to provide those.
Okay.
If it helps, OPA doesn't have anything earth shattering, so we're happy to share next time as well.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just make a motion that we extend it to 11:05.
A second.
So I'll just step away from the chair and make a motion that we extend it to 11:05. That would give us 10 minutes.
Second.
Second.
Is all in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed?
We didn't get a second.
I did.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
got a
did? Okay,
second.
okay, I'm sorry.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? And
Hey, I,
opinion of the
I
chair?
also, I also have to leave right at 11, so I just want to make sure that won't mess up quorum or any decision making.
I don't think it will.
No, it
Okay.
won't. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The meeting will now be extended until 11:05.
Thank you. Logan, do you want to
All right.
takeaways?
I'll also be fairly quick, as we'll definitely be, staff will definitely be giving more information about the conferences and specific sessions that are relevant to work groups, as Director Grant said. But in terms of just general overviews, there were some really amazing sessions at NACOL regarding white supremacy and extremism in law enforcement that we'll definitely dig into in those work groups. There was definitely an overarching theme that within law enforcement, the field is heavily dominated by men, and there's a desperate need for vast increases within women and gender diverse officers, both sworn and non-sworn staff. Both NACOL and some of the sessions from IACP were really amazing regarding police oversight, police reform, and holistic community-based public safety in partnership with law enforcement, such as community violence interrupters. However, IACP had some sessions that were in quite stark contrast to the community-based sessions regarding use of force, and I am look forward to sharing those reactions with commissioners and work groups, as there'll be a lot of focus within use of force policies. But something that was really apparent both at NACOL and IACP is that policing and oversight do not occur in a vacuum. Things that impact one community or one department will definitely impact the perceptions of local communities and local departments, and vice versa. And that policing is a highly complex system that varies greatly across our country. I will admit that I was really happy to see the progress that SPD has made while at IACP. There were many departments that, quite frankly, lack of better words, I was quite horrified at. But whenever a representative from SPD talked, was really happy to see the shift in tone and the focus on reforms and the focus on community-based best practices. So excited to share more within relevant work groups, and happy to answer any questions as well as send materials to commissioners that we took away from both conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Logan. And then I believe we're ready for department updates.
Oh, we got one more, I mean, because Felicia went to an international conference, didn't she? Well, yeah, I mean, and then she was also recognized as a subject, a subject expert on community engagement, and I think she should give an update about going to Dubai. I mean,
thank you very much. Yes, I did accept the offer to go be the keynote speaker for the Dubai Police Department Community Policing Conference, and all expense paid, and it was an amazing experience to just see the different culture. I've never been out of the country before, so that was all of it was just a huge experience. And I received a letter this morning thanking me for coming and how instrumental my speech was to the conference, and they look forward to me coming back again. So it was great, great, huge opportunity. I'm glad I didn't pass it up.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations.
Thank you, Felicia.
Department updates? Is there anyone here? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Took over.
Sure. Is anyone here from yeah, let's move into department updates. We have about 5 minutes left. Is anyone from the city council to provide an update?
Thank you. This is New Aldrich from Councilmember Herbold's office. During the months of October and November, the council meets almost exclusively as the budget committee to consider the 2023 proposed budget, and had a large volume of meetings in October. SPD related issues were discussed on October 13th. The next key step is going to be the budget committee chair will release her budget balancing package on Monday. at a budget committee meeting. And the next day, on Tuesday, the 8th at 9:30 a.m., there will be a public hearing that will be informed by that release balancing package. There's another hearing on November 15th at 5 p.m. Votes on the balancing package are planned, I believe, on November 16th. And council members can make amendments to the balancing package up through November 9th at 2 p.m. That's the timeline to formally get them to be listed on the agenda. As Executive Director Grant noted, Councilor Herbold did put out a solicitation for commission applications. We believe we do have one new commissioner to appoint. The mayor's office has also been in contact with us about appointments that they are looking to move forward on and getting those scheduled for votes. The next committee meeting of the Public Safety and Human Services Committee is December 13th. I think that's it. Also did want to note regarding the letter Executive Director Grant sent, Councilor Herbold has followed up about your willingness to participate in the executive and council work group on 911 alternatives, and appreciate the research that you've done and willingness to share that. And we should be able to get back to you soon on some of the other questions.
Thank you, Noel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Newell. Is anyone from the mayor's office here? Seeing none. Anyone from the monitoring team?
Good morning.
Good
Can
morning,
you
Mr.
hear me?
Ward. Yes, we can.
The monitor team, primarily via Vanessa Wheeler of our team, has been primarily involved in conjunction with Dr. Richard Rosenthal in putting together the methodology for the accountability performance assessment of the Seattle Accountability Partners. For those of you who are unfamiliar with him, Dr. Richard Rosenthal, who's been retained as a consultant, was here during 2017 and 2018. He subsequently published a 667-page treatise for his doctorate, which was exclusively devoted to consent decrees across the country, with a special focus on Seattle. So they are going through the formulation of the methodology portion of this assessment. I am sure that that will be shared with the pertinent parties. Following that, the assessment will be concluded and probably run through the first 4 or 5 months of next year prior to it being finalized. At least that looks like the plan at this point. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Is anyone from DOJ here to provide an update?
I received notification that Matt Waldrop would not be with us, but I'm not sure if anybody else is going to be able to provide any updates. But he said at the time that he did not have any specific.
Anyone from OIG here today? Anyone from Seattle Police Department? Hearing none, I believe that concludes our department updates. And I think it also brings us to the end of the agenda, just under the 11:05 meeting time that was extended. So I want to thank everyone again for showing up and participating and for the discussion. And we look forward to continuing the discussions that we had today. And thank you everyone for your thoughtful contributions. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording